What if I told you that your freedom is an illusion? That every choice you think you're making has already been decided for you. Right now, as you're watching this, you probably believe you're in control. You chose to click on this video, you're choosing to keep watching, you're choosing how to spend your time. But what if none of that is actually true? Here's something that might shock you. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. You wake up, and before your feet even hit the floor, your hand is already reaching for that glowing rectangle. Why? Because somewhere deep in your brain, a craving has been triggered. A hunger that can never be fully satisfied, only temporarily quieted. You scroll through social media, consuming bite-sized pieces of other people's lives. A funny meme here, an outrage-inducing headline there, maybe a video of someone living their best life while you're still in your pajamas. Each scroll gives you a tiny hit of something. Not quite satisfaction, but enough to keep you going, just enough to make you scroll again. Then comes breakfast, but you can't just eat anymore, can you? You need something playing in the background. A YouTube video, a podcast, maybe the news. The simple act of nourishing your body isn't enough. It needs to be paired with stimulation, with input, with something to fill the space where your own thoughts might otherwise live. The commute to work or school becomes another opportunity for consumption. More podcasts, more social media, more notifications pulling your attention in a dozen different directions. By the time you arrive at your destination, you've already consumed more information than a person from just a century ago might encounter in a week. And when do you get a moment of silence? When do you get to be alone with just your thoughts? The answer is almost never, because the moment that silence appears, something uncomfortable happens. An emptiness emerges, a restlessness, a feeling that something's missing. And what's your immediate response? To fill it, to grab your phone, turn on music, find something, anything to make that discomfort go away. But here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. This isn't happening by accident. You haven't just randomly developed these habits. You've been trained, conditioned, programmed to behave exactly like this. And the scariest part, you've been programmed to love it. Nearly a century ago, a brilliant writer named Aldous Huxley wrote a book that predicted exactly the world we're living in today. While everyone was worried about George Orwell's vision of brutal government control in 1984, Huxley saw something far more terrifying. He imagined a world where people wouldn't need to be forced into submission because they'd be too busy enjoying themselves to resist. Think about that for a second. What if the most effective form of control isn't fear, but pleasure? What if the perfect prison isn't one with bars and guards, but one where the prisoners are so entertained they never want to leave? In Huxley's Brave New World, society had figured out the ultimate solution to human suffering. Whenever anyone felt uncomfortable, sad, anxious, or started asking difficult questions, they could take a drug called soma. No side effects, completely safe, and it would instantly wash away any negative feelings. Pain became optional. Discomfort was eliminated. Everyone was happy all the time. Sounds pretty good, right? But here's what Huxley understood that most people miss. When you remove all discomfort from life, you don't create free people. You create slaves who love their chains. Look around at the world today. We don't have soma, but we have something even more powerful. We have smartphones that deliver instant entertainment, social media that provides immediate validation, streaming services that eliminate boredom, dating apps that remove the fear of rejection, and algorithms that predict what we want before we even know we want it. Every uncomfortable feeling can be numbed within seconds. Bored, open TikTok. Lonely, check Instagram. Anxious, watch a funny video. Sad, order some food. Frustrated, buy something online. The modern world has created a buffet of instant pleasure, available 24/7, designed to ensure you never have to sit with difficult emotions for more than a few moments. And just like in Huxley's dystopia, this all feels like choice. No one's forcing you to spend hours on social media. No one's making you binge-watch Netflix until 3 a.m. No one's holding a gun to your head telling you to order fast food instead of cooking. You're choosing all of this, right? But if it's really a choice, why is it so incredibly difficult to stop? Why do you feel genuine anxiety when your phone battery dies? Why does the thought of spending a day without internet access feel almost unbearable? Why do you reach for your phone without even thinking about it, sometimes not even remembering that you picked it up? The answer is conditioning. Your brain has been trained to seek immediate relief from any form of discomfort. Over years of practice, you've learned that feelings are problems to be solved, not experiences to be understood. Your mind has become like a muscle that's never been exercised. It's lost the ability to be still, to be bored, to be alone with itself. And this is exactly what makes you controllable. A person who can't tolerate discomfort will do anything to avoid it. They'll accept any system, follow any trend, buy any product that promises to make the pain go away. They become predictable, manageable, profitable. You might be thinking, but I'm not being controlled. I make my own decisions. Really? Let me ask you something. How many of your daily habits did you consciously choose? How much of your screen time is intentional versus automatic? How often do you do things because you actually want to, versus because you're trying to avoid feeling something uncomfortable? The truth is, most of us are living on autopilot, following patterns that were programmed into us by systems designed to profit from our attention, our data, our purchasing decisions, and our emotional dependency. We think we're free because we can choose between 50 different streaming services, but we never question why we need constant entertainment in the first place. If you're starting to feel uncomfortable right now, good. That discomfort is your brain recognizing something true. It's the feeling of waking up from a dream you didn't realize you were having. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people, when they start to feel this kind of discomfort, immediately look for a way to make it stop. They'll close this video, check their notifications, find something more pleasant to think about. But what if you didn't do that? What if you stayed with this feeling for just a little longer? Because that's where real freedom begins. Not in the endless pursuit of comfort, but in your ability to tolerate discomfort long enough to see what's really happening. From the moment you're born, you're being conditioned to avoid anything that doesn't feel good. The education system teaches you to memorize information, not to think critically. The job market programs you to produce, not to reflect. The entertainment industry provides endless distractions, so you never have time to question the world around you. All of this creates a society where the greatest threat isn't a government that forbids free speech, but a population that's completely lost interest in having anything meaningful to say. Why ban books when you can make sure no one wants to read them? Why control information when you can overwhelm people with so much noise they can't hear the signal? Think about how this shows up in your own life. When you have a free moment, what's your instinct? To check your phone, right? To see what's new, what's happening, what you might be missing. The idea of just sitting quietly with your own thoughts feels almost foreign, boring, wasteful. But what if that impulse to constantly consume information is actually preventing you from developing your most important capacity as a human being? The ability to think for yourself, to form your own opinions, to understand your own mind. Every time you reach for external stimulation to avoid internal emptiness, you're essentially telling your brain that its natural state isn't good enough. That silence is something to be feared rather than embraced. That your own thoughts and feelings are less interesting than whatever strangers on the internet are doing. Over time, this creates a kind of learned helplessness. You become unable to entertain yourself, unable to generate your own ideas, unable to sit with difficult emotions long enough to understand what they're trying to tell you. Your inner world becomes so underdeveloped that you need constant input from the outside world just to feel like you exist. This is the modern version of what Huxley was warning us about. In Brave New World, people were conditioned from birth through a process called hypnopedia, where messages were repeated to them while they slept. Phrases like "everyone belongs to everyone" and "a gram of soma solves everything" were etched into their unconscious minds to ensure they never questioned the system. Today's conditioning doesn't happen while you sleep. It happens while you're awake, but it's just as effective. Every notification trains your brain to expect instant gratification. Every algorithm that shows you exactly what you want to see reinforces the idea that you shouldn't have to encounter ideas that challenge you. Every purchase that arrives at your door within hours teaches you that waiting is unnecessary. The result is a generation of people who have never learned to delay gratification, never developed tolerance for boredom, never built the mental strength that comes from facing difficulty head-on. We've become emotionally fragile in ways that would have been unimaginable to previous generations. A small inconvenience feels like a crisis. A moment of boredom feels unbearable. A challenging conversation feels impossible. Anything that requires sustained effort gets abandoned at the first sign of difficulty. We've been trained to expect that life should be easy, pleasant, and constantly entertaining. But here's what no one wants to tell you. That expectation is making you weak, and weak people are easy to control. Think about it. If you can't tolerate discomfort, you'll do anything to avoid it. If you need constant stimulation, you'll pay whatever price is necessary to get it. If you've never learned to be content with what you have, you'll always be reaching for the next thing, the next purchase, the next experience that promises to fill the emptiness inside you. This creates the perfect consumer. Someone who's always dissatisfied, always seeking, always ready to buy the next solution to their unhappiness. Someone who's too distracted to question why they're unhappy in the first place, too overwhelmed to consider whether their lifestyle might be the problem rather than the cure. And the brilliant part of this system is that it disguises itself as freedom. You can choose what to watch, what to buy, what to consume. You have endless options, infinite variety, complete control over your entertainment. But you never get to choose the most important thing, whether to be entertained at all. The option to be bored, to be understimulated, to have nothing to do and be okay with that, has been effectively removed from your life. Not by force, but by making it feel so uncomfortable that you'll never voluntarily choose it. This is how pleasure becomes a prison. Not because pleasure itself is bad, but because when pleasure becomes your primary coping mechanism for any form of discomfort, you lose your ability to grow, to change, to become stronger. You become trapped in a cycle where you need increasing amounts of stimulation just to feel normal. And here's the really scary part. The people who benefit from your addiction to instant gratification are getting very, very good at providing it. They're studying your behavior, measuring your responses, optimizing their platforms to be more addictive, more engaging, more impossible to resist. They know exactly how long to make a video to keep you watching. They know what kind of content will trigger your emotions. They know when you're most vulnerable, when you're most likely to buy something, when you're most likely to share something. They're using the most advanced technology in human history to hack your brain's reward system. And they're winning. They're winning because most people don't even realize they're in a battle. They think they're just entertaining themselves, just staying connected, just living their lives. They don't understand that their attention is being harvested, their emotions are being manipulated, their behaviors are being shaped by systems designed to profit from their dependency. But what happens when an entire society becomes addicted to instant gratification? What happens when a whole generation loses the ability to delay rewards, to work toward long-term goals, to find meaning in struggle and effort? The answer is that society becomes weak. Not physically weak, but mentally and emotionally weak. People become unable to handle any significant challenge, any real adversity, any situation that can't be solved with a quick fix or an easy solution. And weak societies don't remain free for very long. They become easy targets for anyone who wants to control them, manipulate them, or exploit them. Because when people are addicted to comfort, they'll trade almost anything to keep that comfort coming. This is why understanding the difference between pleasure and purpose is so crucial. Because while pleasure can enslave you, purpose can set you free. Pleasure is always temporary. It gives you a momentary high, but then it's gone and you need more. It's like junk food for the soul. It tastes good going down, but it doesn't nourish you. It doesn't build anything lasting. It doesn't create growth or meaning or strength. Purpose is different. Purpose doesn't promise instant satisfaction. In fact, it often requires you to endure discomfort, to work through challenges, to delay gratification in service of something larger than your immediate desires. But unlike pleasure, purpose builds something lasting inside you. It creates resilience, meaning, and a kind of satisfaction that doesn't disappear the moment the good feeling ends. Think about the most meaningful moments in your life. The times when you really grew as a person, when you developed real strength, when you accomplished something you're genuinely proud of. Were those moments characterized by instant pleasure and easy gratification? Or were they characterized by challenge, effort, and the willingness to push through discomfort in service of something important? The harsh reality is that anything worth doing in life requires you to tolerate discomfort. Learning a skill means accepting that you'll be bad at it for a while. Building a relationship means having difficult conversations. Creating something meaningful means facing the possibility of failure. Growing as a person means confronting parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But modern society has trained you to avoid all of these experiences. It's taught you that discomfort is always bad, that you should feel good all the time, that if something is difficult, you should find an easier way or give up entirely. This is a lie, and it's a lie that serves the interests of people who want to keep you distracted, dependent, and controllable. The truth is that discomfort is often a sign that you're growing. Boredom is often a sign that you're ready for a deeper challenge. Frustration is often a sign that you're pushing against your current limitations. These feelings aren't problems to be solved immediately. They're information to be understood and used. But you can't access this information if you're constantly running away from it. You can't grow if you're always choosing the path of least resistance. You can't develop strength if you never exercise your capacity to endure difficulty. So how do you break free from this cycle? How do you reclaim your autonomy in a world designed to keep you dependent? The first step is to recognize that this is a battle. You're not just trying to improve your life or develop better habits. You're fighting against systems that have been specifically designed to capture and hold your attention, to manipulate your emotions, to keep you in a state of constant consumption. Understanding this changes everything. Because once you realize you're in a battle, you can start to fight back strategically instead of just hoping things will get better on their own. The second step is to practice what I call strategic deprivation. This doesn't mean becoming a monk or giving up all pleasure forever. It means consciously choosing to go without certain things for specific periods of time, not as punishment, but as training. Try going a day without checking social media. Try having a meal without any entertainment. Try sitting in silence for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone. Try reading a book instead of watching a video. Try cooking instead of ordering food. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will resist. It will tell you that you're missing out, that you're being unnecessarily difficult, that you deserve to relax and enjoy yourself. This resistance is exactly what you need to work through. Because on the other side of that resistance is something remarkable. Your capacity for stillness, for patience, for finding satisfaction in simple things, for tolerating discomfort without immediately needing to fix it. These are the mental muscles that have been atrophying while you've been addicted to instant gratification. The third step is to rebuild your relationship with boredom. In a world of infinite entertainment, boredom has become an almost extinct experience. But boredom isn't the enemy. Boredom is often the precursor to creativity, to insight, to the kind of deep thinking that can only happen when your mind isn't constantly processing external input. When you feel bored, instead of immediately reaching for stimulation, try staying with that feeling. See what emerges. Often, underneath boredom is curiosity, imagination, or the desire to create something rather than just consume it. The fourth step is to develop what I call conscious consumption. This means making deliberate choices about what you allow into your mind, instead of just consuming whatever happens to be in front of you. Ask yourself, is this making me stronger or weaker? Is this helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Is this adding value to my life or just filling time? Is this aligned with who I want to become, or is it pulling me in a different direction? These questions force you to become an active participant in your own life, instead of a passive consumer of whatever content has been optimized to capture your attention. The fifth step is to reconnect with purpose. This is perhaps the most important step because purpose is the antidote to the slavery of instant gratification. When you have something meaningful to work toward, temporary pleasures lose their power over you. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing. It can be as simple as becoming physically stronger, learning a new skill, building better relationships, or creating something you're proud of. The key is that it requires sustained effort over time and can't be achieved through instant gratification. But here's what happens when you start to break free from the cycle of constant consumption and instant gratification. People notice. And not everyone likes it. Some people will admire your discipline and want to understand how you developed it, but others will feel threatened by your change. They'll try to convince you that you're being too extreme, too rigid, too serious. They'll tell you that life is meant to be enjoyed, that you should just relax and have fun. What they're really saying is that your freedom makes them uncomfortable with their own imprisonment. Your ability to say no to instant gratification highlights their inability to do the same. Your willingness to pursue something meaningful makes their pursuit of pleasure feel shallow by comparison. This is normal and predictable. When you stop participating in collective unconsciousness, you become a mirror that reflects back to others what they don't want to see about themselves. Some people will use that reflection to wake up. Others will try to break the mirror. You have to be prepared for this, because the path to real freedom is often lonely. It requires you to swim against the current, to make choices that others don't understand, to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort. But here's what makes it worth it. When you're no longer dependent on external sources of stimulation for your sense of well-being, you become truly free. When you can tolerate discomfort, you become anti-fragile. When you can delay gratification in service of something meaningful, you become powerful in a way that no amount of pleasure-seeking can match. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the author of your own experience. You stop reacting to whatever stimuli happen to cross your path and start acting according to your own values and priorities. You stop being controlled by your emotions and start using them as information to guide your choices. This is what real freedom looks like. Not the freedom to choose between an infinite number of entertainment options, but the freedom to choose not to be entertained at all. Not the freedom to avoid all discomfort, but the freedom to face discomfort in service of something larger than yourself. The choice is yours. You can continue living as you have been, seeking the next hit of dopamine, the next distraction, the next temporary pleasure that promises to fill the growing emptiness inside you. You can keep participating in a system that profits from your dependency and thrives on your inability to be still, Or you can choose to wake up, to see the game that's being played, to recognize that your attention is valuable, your time is precious, and your mental freedom is worth fighting for. You can choose to develop the capacity to be alone with your own thoughts, to find satisfaction in simple things, to work toward goals that require sustained effort and can't be achieved through instant gratification. But understand this: the moment you make this choice, you're choosing to live differently than most people around you. You're choosing to prioritize meaning over pleasure, growth over comfort, freedom over convenience. You're choosing to become someone who can't be easily manipulated, distracted, or controlled. And that choice, more than any external change, is what will determine whether you remain a voluntary slave to the system of instant gratification or become truly free. The question isn't whether you can escape this trap. The question is whether you want it badly enough to do what it takes, because the door to your cage was never locked. You just had to stop being afraid of what's outside. What will you choose?